Dream big, act boldly. You want to learn who said those words? You'll meet him coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at the Myrtle Beach Herald. Myrtle Beach's oldest locally owned newspaper, and its office is at Myrtle Square Mall next door to Belk. We're visiting with Brad Dean, the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce. Good morning, Brad.
Good morning, Greg. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for being with us this morning. It's so exciting to think that we've pigeonholed you between Dennis Wade and Alan Clemens tomorrow, two folks that you have a dramatic impact with. Of course, we talked, looking forward to talking to Alan about the I-73 Association, which he's gotten real active with, and of course Dennis Wade yesterday about his activities at the Chamber.
Dennis is a great leader locally, and Alan is a great leader for us in Columbia, so those are two great people to be talking to.
And Brad, think about it. The last two times we were together, of course, when we were out at Santee Cooper, when we were kicking off the discussions about the Myrtle Beach Area Heart Walk, and then later when we were at the House of Blues highlighting the walk again. At that time, it was Brad Dean, the Chief Financial Officer of the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce. That F changed to an E, and some big things have happened in the interim.
Absolutely. I think Carolina People's been good for me. It's been the road that, to go through for commercial and professional success here in Horry County.
How exciting, Brad. This is a very, very exciting time for the folks of Horry County, for the state of South Carolina, and really for the region to think about the impact the Chamber has. I don't think I understood that until I saw the Chamber has an $8.9 million annual budget serving more than 2,400 members.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of the largest chambers of commerce in the entire country. In fact, when we compete for awards, we compete with places like New York and Chicago and Dallas. So it's a large chamber, a very broad organization, and it does have a great impact in the community.
When we think about that impact, and one thing I'm looking forward to talking to Alan about tomorrow is, what about we hear about tourism being the engine that really helps to run the state of South Carolina, helps to run the Southeast. What's the significance of tourism, of course, for you and for all the staff and volunteers that associate with the Chamber of Commerce? You all are serving a heck of a lot of members, many of which aren't totally active in the tourism industry. Well, what is the significance of tourism in the area?
Well, that's a great question, because clearly tourism is not only our number one industry, it is the state's number one industry. You take away tourism, or you impact tourism negatively, and the state hurts. And we've seen that in recent years. Of course, if we can grow tourism, our area grows, as does the state. But I think one of the keys to success at our organization is recognizing that although we directly serve the tourism industry, most of our members are indirectly tied to it. I don't think there's any business in Horry County that isn't indirectly related to tourism, but it takes a lot of other pieces of that puzzle to pull together to really make us a success. And I think that's one of the roles the Chamber has to play, is to be an advocate for small and large business, both directly and indirectly related to tourism.
That's a great point. Brad, about yourself, where did you grow up?
Originally grew up in the Midwest, a small farming community, and you really had three choices. You either became a farmer, a factory worker, or you left town, and I did the latter. I went to the University of Illinois, majored in accounting, and graduated from there in 1989, and went to work for General Electric.
You have brothers and sisters growing up there in Illinois?
I do, two older brothers and a younger brother, and most of the family stayed back in Illinois. I was the outcast. I was the one that went east and ended up in several destinations in the East Coast, and finally Myrtle Beach, where I'm happy to call it home today.
Yes, Brad. Does the family come down and visit now, or do you and Miriam and your kids get out to Illinois?
Well, the family likes to visit a lot more now that I'm in Myrtle Beach. They seem to want to have that close bond quite frequently. We do go back every so often, although my wife is originally from the Caribbean, so anything outside the summer months in the Midwest is just too cold for her. But we do get to see the family a lot here.
I'm so glad you mentioned your wife, Brad. It was at a kids voting luncheon recently that I had the opportunity to sit across from her. Of course, I really didn't have any idea who she was until someone introduced her, or until she introduced herself. But it was very exciting. I thought, God, look at this good looking. Yeah, I mean, it was very exciting to.
You set me up there. I had her convinced how hard it was to learn Spanish, and you walked away with fluent Spanish, and now I'm taking Spanish lessons at home. So
I love it.
Thanks a lot, Greg.
Absolutely. Te amo are a couple of words you learned very early on. I remember one of the great things back in May when you were helping Loretta and me prepare for your interview out at Santee Cooper. You had sent Loretta some basic facts, and of course you talked about working with General Electric down in Puerto Rico, I believe. Is that where you met Miriam?
Yeah, absolutely. I had gone down there actually to help close some plants. And when I got down there, I realized the plants were okay. They just needed leadership and direction, and got involved. We turned those businesses around, and we met through a mutual friend. And, of course, from there, eventually got married and moved back to the States.
Wow. Yeah, what is that like, being married to a bilingual woman?
Well, she's a lot smarter than I am. Once I learned that, I realized let her make the decisions, and I just try to act smart around her. But she's a brilliant lady. She's got a Ph.D. in psychology and works for Blue Cross Blue Shield. So we don't talk about the chamber or health insurance at home, and generally that leads to marital bliss.
Yes, yes. And you all have a couple of children, Brad.
We do. We've got a 9-year-old boy and a 2-year-old girl.
Golly, what's that like being a father?
Well, it certainly changes your priorities, and all the more important for us to be in the Myrtle Beach area, where we like to call it home. When you're young, you don't have kids, you're a little more mobile, but when you have children, you want to set roots in a community and be in a place where you enjoy being and raising your family, and that's what we think Myrtle Beach is a great place to not only live, work, and play, but to raise a family.
Brad, your degree, and I'm glad you mentioned that, but it made me think about your degree was in accounting, and you working with General Electric as an accountant or as a financial officer. And interestingly, Dennis, who was in with us yesterday, was also an accountant. And it makes me think about these guys. And Dennis, of course, was chairman of the Chamber of Commerce, now the CEO of the Jackson Companies. You're now the CEO of the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce. Are accountants taking over the world? What's the deal?
You've disclosed our secret plan from CPA to rulers of the world. But, some accountants are just accountants. And others of us, I think, try to use the financial tools in ways to better improve the organizations. Dennis is a great example of somebody that his skills in accounting are just one tool in his toolbox. And so when you can use those to help people and improve an organization, it becomes a very powerful tool.
Oh, yeah, Brad. Let's talk about those tools. What are some of the tools necessary to make sure that the Chamber of Commerce ticks well?
Well, the first and foremost is we've got to be great listeners. You get 2 ears and 1 mouth, and that's so you listen twice as much as you speak. And if we don't have our finger on the pulse of the business community, if we aren't constantly listening and learning from our members, we can't be leaders. And I think also one of the critical challenges that we face in this community and at the Chamber is to be willing to change. And change is a tough thing. It's a tough equation for people, and sometimes it brings about the fears and worries of what we might lose or what we might give up. But change can also open up doors of progress. And if you think of where we've come from, with just a sleepy little beachside resort to one of the major tourist meccas in the entire country, recognized as the #1 family beach destination, where do we go from here? Rest assured that it won't be by doing things the same old way. So within the Chamber and within our community, we've got to be willing to make some changes. Not change for the sake of change, but change for the sake of progress.
That's a great point. And speaking of not doing things the same old way, after joining the Rank organization, you helped them open the Myrtle Beach Hard Rock Cafe, which surely wasn't done the same old way. Share with the viewers about leaving Puerto Rico and leaving where were you with the Rank organization before coming to Myrtle?
Well, I left GE and went into Rank with a financial position, and after a couple of years doing numbers and helping select sites, I came to Myrtle Beach. And interestingly enough, most people in the company thought that restaurant wasn't going to do very well, and I looked at it as a gold mine. I said, there's too many reasons why this can't fail. So I offered to come here and run this restaurant and retail shop, and it became one of the most successful. And that wasn't because of me. We had a great community, a great customer base, and a strong staff. And the one thing Rank, and particularly the Hard Rock, did is they cultivated an entrepreneurial spirit. It didn't matter if you made mistakes. It didn't matter if you took risks. If you were willing to go out and do something differently and try it and could make it work, they would let you be a shining star. And so here at the Myrtle Beach Hard Rock, we just did a lot of things that we broke some rules that needed to be broken, and sometimes the old adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Sometimes if it ain't broke, we'll break it anyway and make it better. And I think that's one of the reasons why this unit's been so successful.
Golly, Brad, you came up here in your late 20s. You're a young guy as the GM of an opening in a location that was going to have that kind of financial impact, not only on the Rank organization but on the Myrtle Beach area community.
Well, I figured it'd go really well or really bad, and thankfully it went really well.
Absolutely. How exciting. How exciting. How did the Sedgway happen of moving from Hard Rock to the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce?
Well, the restaurant business is a fun one, an exciting one, but it can be very demanding. And I think at that point in my life, I had one child and was hoping to have a second. I just felt like priorities had gotten a little displaced, and I needed to be a better father and a better husband. And working at the chamber was great because it gave me more manageable hours, a more regular schedule. And quite frankly, it was an opportunity to work for the master. There was nobody better to learn tourism and tourism promotion than from Ashby Ward. And so the opportunity to work for a great organization, stay in a great community, and work for a remarkable man, I mean, what more could you ask for?
The master. And speaking of the master, I got to ask this, Brad. Folks have said that Brad Dean, the guy's 35. He's too young to take over the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce. But I was wondering, how old was Ashby Ward when he took on that same position?
Well, Mr. Ward was 36 when he came here. Of course, he had a career in TV. But we've taken care of that because, you know, Dennis and the search committee took so long that I actually aged 10 years during that process. So I'm really much older than 35. But, you know, at the end of the day, youth and experience can be a strength or a weakness. I don't believe the business community or the residents of this great area will worry about my age as much as results. I could be really old and do a bad job. I could be really young and do a good job. There's a difference between efforts and results, and our job is to generate great results.
Yes, Brad. And speaking of generating great results, share with the viewers real quick exactly how a Chamber of Commerce, and in particular the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce, works. There's thousands upon thousands of businesses in Horry County, individual. They're not all members of the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce. Why are they not? And what are the benefits that a chamber provides for a small business or large?
It's a great question. One of the questions we're going to be asking is those businesses that aren't members of the chamber, why not? What aren't we doing, or what are we doing that we should change? But we've got over 2,000 members, and that's certainly a great sign. What's really important to me is not just the number of members, but the retention. If people sign up and return and continue to come back, repeat business for us is our retention, and I think that's absolutely critical. And thankfully, for the last few years, we've been above the national average in retention, but we're not going to rest upon our laurels. Things like education, development, training, networking, things that small businesses really need, and that opens up doors for them. You know, a third of our members have 5 employees or less. Mm-hmm. That's remarkable when you think about an organization that big, with that big of a budget, and yet most of our members are tiny businesses. So we have to keep in mind the small business is the backbone of our local economy and the state and national economy, and then as well tourism promotion and attracting tourists here. To me, it's a matter of bringing more people here, making this a great place to host visitors, and also to open and run businesses and help our businesses become better. Our success is directly tied to the success of businesses like yours, and as long as we remember that, we'll be successful. The day we forget that is when we start to go down a road that nobody wants to go down.
And you mentioned that a big push is obviously attracting folks to Myrtle Beach. This is the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce. It's not the Myrtle Beach Chamber of Commerce, but there are other area Chamber of Commerces who assumably have a similar goal. How are you all working together right now, Brad, and do you foresee a continued growth together?
Absolutely. I think the greatest things we will accomplish will be together, and together we can accomplish better things than any of us could hope to do alone. We do have members in North Myrtle Beach and Surfside, Little River, Garden City, east and west of the waterway, and you know, I think one of the challenges that we face and one of the difficulties we've had to deal with in recent years is we've become very inward focused, Greg. We sometimes think the competition is in North Myrtle Beach versus Myrtle Beach or east and west along the waterway. That's not the case. Our competition is in places like Orlando, Virginia Beach, and San Antonio. And quite frankly, for people watching the show, our competition is any city, state, or county that seeks to attract or relocate a business that should be here employing citizens of the Grand Strand. When we focus inward, I think that's when we find our limits. But the challenge is to focus outward and find ourselves limitless. And so I hope the Chamber can play a role in doing that, and cooperation and collaboration are key.
I got to ask you to repeat that, Brad. That's such an important point. Just repeat exactly what you were last saying about who's competing with the Myrtle Beach area.
Well, you look at destinations like Orlando, Virginia Beach, Savannah. They advertise for our tourists. In fact, Orlando's advertising campaign for next year is going after the very people that come here because they come back year after year after year. They see us as an opportunity to steal from. Groups markets like Savannah, San Antonio, Knoxville. They're out there advertising for conventions and meetings that could and should be here. They're recruiting businesses that have already signed contracts here to take them out of our community. So we've got to fight back and keep that business coming here. Mm-hmm. And then when we think about economic diversification, we have to be willing to attract and retain businesses beyond tourism to keep a healthy balance. And for people in Horry, Georgetown counties that want to have higher paying salaries, for people in Brunswick County that want to see diversification, it's absolutely imperative that we look to attract businesses that may not be directly in the tourism industry, but will complement it. And that brings economic success, and that the rising tide that floats all boats.
Mm-hmm. Brad, of course, you've helped the community understand a little better about taking risk. You helped do that for the Rank organization and Hard Rock, not pushing the envelope too far, but in that effort to think outside of the box, do you travel to other areas, or do we really try to stay here and just continue to think? Do you have folks within the chamber that will travel to Orlando or Atlanta or Savannah or Biloxi to come up with some ideas of ways that we can continue to attract folks to the area?
You betcha. One of the things we've done in recent years that we're not going to do anymore is we're not going to host any more people coming in here. We've had groups come from Florida, Texas, Mississippi to find out how we do it. And I think we're going to keep some of those trade secrets home, but we are going to start making the rounds and go out and see what some other destinations are doing it. And you do that on the road, you do it in person. I spent the better part of an evening the other night meeting with the CEO of the Greensboro Chamber, who has some great ideas, some of which will work here, some won't. So we're going to look for some best practices. If it's working well, let's make it work a little better. And if it's not working well, let's figure out a way to rehaul it, overhaul it, or just get rid of it and do something better for the community. I think we've got to look for ways to continuously improve.
You know, Susan Cohen, that same week we were together at House of Blues, who's with Burson Chapin, had talked about part of the reason why she left Atlanta to come back to South Carolina and then later back to the beach was Ashby having spoken at a Southeast Tourist Council meeting. And that impact, even in an earlier stage when she was working in the PD area, that impact that he had on her life was dramatic. And of course, it's moments like that, the opportunity to hear someone speak. Your acceptance speech at the Myrtle Beach Convention Center was a powerful one that drew tears in the crowd and obviously standing ovations. We got about 10 minutes, Brad, but there were so many important points that you drove through to the crowd that day of folks, well-wishers, a lot of folks. There were probably folks in the crowd who, oftentimes they're detractors even, who thought maybe someone else could do this. But there are surely the majority of the folks in the crowd that were ecstatic about that opportunity. Can you share with the viewers a little sense of some of the points that were vital? I know you've talked about a couple of them, but any of the other points that were really vital?
Certainly. Just to reiterate, I think to be willing to make changes. And what all those changes we'll see. Within the chamber, we've got to focus internally. We have got to position this chamber not to simply do what it's done in the past, to be prepared to go at a higher level. And that's not a criticism of Ashby Ward. If Mr. Ward were here today, he would tell us that change is inevitable. So we have got to look forward and determine where are we at today, where do we think we need to be in the future, and then how do we get there. I think within the community, one of the greatest challenges we face is to become dreamers again. And I'm not talking about Walt Disney type dreaming. I'm talking about just stop asking and talking about what is, and let's start talking about what if. If you think about it, Greg, there are communities in this country that would kill to have the problems we have. A new airport terminal or expand the current one. A regional shopping mall, an international trade center. These are great ideas. And sometimes I think we sell ourselves a little short. And if you think back to what's made this area great, people like Cecil Brandon, Zeb Thomas, Clay Britton, they didn't say, 120 golf courses, it'll never happen. The Jacksons, the Andersons, the Creels, the Nances, they didn't look at this place and say, we can't bring 13 million visitors here. People like John Singleton, Ashby Ward, Mark Garner, the late Bob Grissom, they didn't sell themselves short and say, we'll never be the #1 vacation destination on the East Coast. They didn't set limits. So our challenge today, I believe, is to work together and not set those limits, but start breaking them. Let's set out for some great ideas. Let's dream the big dream. And, of course, dreams don't pay the bills. But if we simply worry about what we've always had, then the only success we'll have is dividing up what we've had in the past. I think the challenge is not to divide up the pie as it is today, but to increase it and raise that for all stakeholders. And that's important not only for businesses, but for residents in Horry County. If we want to see services improve and opportunities with this area grow, it's going to happen economically. And, of course, that ties in some other key areas like education, infrastructure, and economic development.
And speaking of infrastructure, we highlight something, of course, Zenitz and I talked briefly about that yesterday. I hope Alan and I will have a chance to talk about that tomorrow. Major infrastructure, something that would have a dramatic impact on the beach. I know NISA has been working hard for this. Share with the viewers a little bit about I-73. Is this a potential reality? What'll make it happen? What are the biggest stumbling blocks, and what's the significance of evacuation?
Interstate 73 is absolutely essential to the future economic development of this area, and we're going to get that interstate. We deserve it. We need it a long time ago, and we're the only major vacation destination without an interstate coming right to us. You're going to be talking to Alan tomorrow, and I'll say this. Say what you want to about Alan Clemens. It doesn't care. I don't care if you're a Republican, a Democrat, a Libertarian, a Vegetarian. Alan Clemens is working his tail off to get us I-73, as is the rest of this delegation. We're traveling to meetings in Washington and other states to get them excited and energized. Why is it important? Yes, it will bring more tourists here. Yes, it will give us a quick evacuation out of here. But the minute we can start funding I-73, you will see businesses start sprouting up, businesses that will pay high-paying jobs. One of the criticisms, Greg, of tourism is that it doesn't bring high-paying jobs. The service industry historically has not. But when we can get an interstate, that allows industry that will pay higher salaries and higher wages to come here. We could be a hub for a FedEx or a big manufacturer in places where we need those jobs, and that's east and west of the waterway, and that's not just Horry County. It's pretty much in all your listening area because it comes right through North Carolina into South Carolina. So we've got to get that interstate. The state has said it's the number one priority. Congressman Brown has said it's a priority, and Alan Clemens is working on it. The challenge now is for residents and the business community to get behind this, to make some noise and bring that here. We need it. We're going to get it.
Of course, you speak from the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce. You know the bulk of my viewers are in the PD and in southeastern North Carolina. How will this impact them, and will it be a beneficial sense? What are some of the areas that would possibly affect them negatively?
Absolutely, and let me make this call to action. When we went up to the last road rally, we needed people from Marion and Dillon there, and I hope if anybody in Marion or Dillon counties watching this, pick up the phone, call 843-626-7444, and say, I want I-73. How do I get involved? Doug Jennings, who is a state representative from Marlboro County, was very, very involved, and he is the chairman of the NISA I-73 committee. But politicians alone can't do it. Now, guys like Alan and Doug are going to work hard, but it's up to listeners in your area, viewers in your area, to get on board and help with this. It will bring jobs. It will bring economic growth. It will be perhaps the greatest impetus to economic development in South Carolina, not just in Horry County, but in all of the PD, if we can get I-73. And we will be absolutely amazed at the outgrowing of that once we start funding it. We don't even need the road. We just need the funding to start seeing the economic benefits.
That is amazing, Brad. That is amazing. What about the evacuation aspect? That's an aspect. And why doesn't Myrtle Beach have an interstate either ending here or coming dang close?
We, for many years, Greg, I think the Grand Strand has had a world-class economy, but we've operated with third-world politics. We don't go to Columbia with a unified voice, and we don't speak very loud. I think one of the challenges for the Chamber is to become more of a conduit, to speak loud and to say the Grand Strand is the state's cash cow. Just last weekend, Alan and I hosted the Freshman Caucus Retreat, where we brought legislators from other areas here, and it was amazing when we got them out of Columbia and brought them here and showed them the Grand Strand and talked to them about the importance of this. They are now big believers in tourism. Speaker Wilkins, the Speaker of the House, said, you guys are doing a great job. You just got to do a better job at telling us in Columbia about it. So I think part of the challenge is to speak with a unified, loud voice, saying this area is funding the rest of the state. We don't mind being a donor state. Just be fair and let us grow our economy too.
Mm-hmm. It's that simple phone number, 843-626-7444, from any viewer, whether
Absolutely.
in Laurinburg or Lumberton or Whiteville. If they can call in, it'll have an impact on virtually everyone.
Absolutely, and I'm sure Alan will talk about it tomorrow, but the South Carolina I-73 Association, I'll put it to you this way. If we're going to get I-73, it takes a lot of states to be involved, but we've learned very quickly that South Carolina is going to have to play quarterback, running back, and tight end. And we don't care if the other states want to sit by and play with the pom-poms and cheer us on, but it's going to take the entire state, not just the Grand Strand, to get involved in this if we want I-73.
What are some other dreams? We just got a couple of minutes, Brad. What are a couple other dreams that we need to be wrapping around?
Well, certainly improvements in education. That is a great opportunity for this state. We have to do that. Education and economic success go hand in hand. Schools and businesses can not only survive in spite of each other, but can thrive because of each other. And I think the business community has in the past, but needs to be more proactive in supporting education. Economic development is critical. We've got to diversify our economy if we want to see a true year-round economy here. And I think one of the critical elements in tourism promotion is recognizing that to bring more tourists here, it can't be families driving in July. We've got to be able to find ways, whether through promotions, festivals, and events, or just targeting new markets, places in the Midwest that don't realize what a great destination we are, to bring new markets here. And I think one of the challenges you will see us step up to at the Chamber is spending more money than we've ever spent on going into new markets, perhaps markets with emerging air service, and giving people who don't know about the Myrtle Beach area a great reason to come here and sample what we have to offer.
Brad, those are great words. I got to read real quick. This was something that was at the end of your note to Loretta, the producer of the show, when we were trying to get you in May for that Santee Cooper tape. And unfortunately, I'm boring as heck. Have a face for radio and probably the least exciting interview Greg's career will ever suffer. If all else fails, he should do as Banana Jack has always done, just make fun of me, and I can laugh with the best of them. Now, of course, I didn't know Brad Dean. I didn't have that aspect when we were thinking about who would be the co-chair with Graham Edwards of the Myrtle Beach area Heart Walk, incredible Heart Walk. I stand corrected. I'm totally stand corrected. We had a $115,000 goal. We went to 172, 49% over budget. Unbelievable. You and Graham did a spectacular job along with all the volunteers and Heart Association folks. Incredible. Can you just talk about the significance of that?
Well, it's such a great cause, and it was in memory of Ashby Ward, who was such a great man. For me, it was very fulfilling to work with somebody like Graham. He did a lot of the work. Of course, Tammy Eves and her team at the Heart Walk. And let's not forget the corporate sponsors that step up to the plate almost immediately. People like Burroughs and Chapin and Doug Wendell and Better Blue, which really gave us the marketing power to go out and attract more walkers than we ever had. It wasn't the most beautiful day we've seen on the beach, but people showed up in throngs to support a great cause. And I think that reminds us what a great community we live in.
You heard him say it. The words are simple. What a great community we live in. And it is the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce. Serves a heck of a lot of different areas in the greater Grand Strand. And, of course, it has the impact that he talked about. The cheerleading will have to happen throughout the entire state of South Carolina to make dreams like Interstate 73 work. But it will happen. You heard him say it. Brad, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Brad.
Absolutely. Stay tuned to more Carolina People coming up next. His initials are BD. If you sat here with us the last 30 minutes, you'd know that means Big Dreamer. We got the right man for the job at the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce, Brad Dean.